2026. As you are aware, the public element of today's meeting is being live streamed, and those participating have given consent to their inclusion. This recording will be available on our YouTube channel following the meeting, where it shall be retained for up to 1 civic year. Chairman.
Thank you, Town Clerk, and welcome members, officers and those members of the public watching the meeting virtually. Town Clerk, apologies.
Apologies for absence today, Chair, have been received from Alderman Sir Peter Estlin, Alderman Alistair King and Alderman Kawsar Zaman. Moving to item 2, declarations under the Code of Conduct in respect of items on the agenda. Can I ask if there are any in the room or online, please?
Not that I'm aware of, okay.
Thank you. We then move to item 3, which is consideration of the minutes of our last meeting on the 9th of December 2025.
Everyone comfortable with the minutes? There are some matters arising which we'll go through. Great. Now, the first one is on the Board of Directors for the Lord Mayor's Show. For completeness, Alderman Hales to report about Henry Colthurst for another 3-year term as on that.
Yes, so I report that.
Thank you. That's well done. He was whose initial 3-year was as a co-opted director, expired in 25, has been reappointed. The other thing is for everybody here is if you have any committee, well, coming to committee allocations is that time of year, and if any of you have a feed into the Town Clerk any preferences, can you do so no later than midday Tuesday the 10th of February, please. And the other thing is Alderwoman Grekos, we want to follow up on the livery cloth grant, and the Chamberlain is here and will address that question. Thank you.
Yeah, could I, or just on the minutes, just a very small, tiny point.
Sure.
I think technically on page 8.4, I didn't resign off the St Paul's Cathedral. My term of office came to an end and I didn't reapply.
Thank you. We will make that note.
Thank you.
Chamberlain.
Thank you very much. So Aldermen and Alderwomen, there is a budget of 9,000 for the grant. So you do have the facility, if you wanted to increase the grant to the cloth, the livery cloth. I would suggest 2 things, which I always do on grants themselves. One is, what outcome do you want to secure for it? Because I believe that the grant was going to go towards Provenance Row. So what outcome does the Court of Aldermen want to see for that grant? And then reflecting on the amounts, you may want to have a look at, say, inflation over the previous periods as a methodology for what you would up it by. So just some suggestions in there, but in your hands. Thank you.
Good suggestions. Alderman Grekos, any comment on that? I mean, it's something we can discuss as a court and come back next time.
I'm happy to discuss the court. I guess what I'd like a bit of clarification from the Chamber, is it 9,000 a year that sort of exists in that pot, or is a one-off 9,000 in terms of that maximum?
My understanding is it's the budget, but I will get my team to, and therefore each year, but I will get my team to confirm that. But certainly from the response that was given, it implies that it would be ongoing.
I guess for me then it will be to give the maximum to Providence Row. In terms of outcomes want to see, I guess it's they're fulfilling their charitable outcomes really, and a connection, and by all means they could come over here and give a presentation on that. You know, I know myself, Alison and a few others, Bronick, etc., have gone down there and we've been shown round, and actually we've been invited to volunteer in their kitchens, and I've put myself forward. So that connection is always sort of very welcomed.
Alderman Hales.
So which pot of money does this come from, Chamberlain?
It's within your budget. So you have a £9,000 budget for grants.
And at the moment, we just give it to that one charity.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Sorry, and if we don't spend it, then budget of 9, but we've been given 1.7. Seems very odd.
sorry, the suggestion I believe from last time was that it was 1.7 because that was either what was requested or it was what you had given in the past. So you have a £9,000 grant budget. It is within your gift as to whether you want to increase that or grant it to another organisation. I would suggest you reflect on the outcomes you want from it, and have that discussion.
So why don't we bring this back next time? Good idea, Alderwoman Greckos, on Providence Road coming and making a presentation at the next GP, and then we can probably have a discussion after that. We have quite a full agenda next.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
So this presumably is £9,000 in our current financial year budget, which we're about to go into a new financial year.
Good point.
So if it's use it or lose it,
then
I'd be inclined to agree with Martha that we should use it, but we should then revisit what we use the 9.
Good point.
Conversation about who we want to give grants to. Yeah.
Can I say that I agree with Team Hale? So let's give it to Providence Road this year and come back with a bit more time to think about where our charitable aim should be for the 9K generally.
Okay, very, very good. Yes.
Of that, could we just, because I had other experiences as well, let them know when they get the 9,000.
It may be a one-off.
That may be a one-off. We don't want to create, if they shouldn't do, but if they budget for it and then we're giving them, thanks.
But because then, as you say, Martha, we can have a discussion as a court about our charitable giving, and we may decide that £9,000 could be divided amongst some other charities that would be helpful. Okay, so everyone agreed on that? Thank you, Gemma and Chamberlain, your liaison, the £9,000. Thank you. No, so the other thing is, which I wanted to bring up, is say congratulations to Alex Barr on a very successful Red Cross fair, which many of you were involved in. And Alex, I don't know, maybe if you could just give us a minute or two on the numbers and etc. But I think it was a record year. But you can tell me otherwise.
It doesn't need a minute. I think we hit over the target. We raised just over £190,000. But a couple of points on that. One, it's teamwork. Great team effort from everyone involved, Livery, Red Cross, etc. 2, it absolutely builds on the success of all of the previous aldermen and all the women who have done it, particularly Emma, who was the chair before me. So thank you, Emma. And thirdly, a huge amount of goodwill for the city from that. So thank you. Well done.
And we'll make sure that's firmly minuted, that a huge success, record year. Well done, Alex, and Lucy, because I know Lucy would have been a very important part of making it happen. Great, thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Moving to item 4, which is a report of the Remembrancer concerning a bylaw amendment request from the Worshipful Company of Builders Merchants. This is for decision, Chair.
James, is James here? Okay,
yeah,
James is on screen. So any questions? This will require ratification at the Court of Aldermen later, but I don't see any issues here unless anyone wants to make a comment. No, so that's great. Thank you, Town Clerk.
Item 5, Chair, is a second report from the Remembrancer concerning a supplemental charter from the Worshipful Company of Needlemakers. This is also for decision.
James, maybe you just want to make a little introduction to this, please.
Chair, so the Needlemakers have presented the Court of Aldermen with a new supplemental charter which updates their existing charter, which dates to the 17th century, and so it's a rewrite and modernisation of the charter. It was considered at the Magistracy and Livery Subcommittee at the end of last year, and was approved by that subcommittee, and that officers and members of the subcommittee had considered it, and there was no issues raised with the supplemental charter as drafted.
Now everyone knows this has already received the approval of the Magistracy and Livery Subcommittee. I don't know whether the chair wants to make any comment on this.
I think the new version is sharper and to the point.
Thank you very much, Chair. This will also, very good. This will also require ratification at this afternoon. So is everyone comfortable with this? Yeah.
I don't think I'm conflicted, but I am the aldermanic liaison for the needle makers and help push this through. So unless anyone tells me otherwise, I don't think I'm conflicted.
I don't think you are. Thank you. If you're a needle maker, that would cause more of a conflict. Thank you. Okay, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Up next is a further report from the Remembrance, a discussion item regarding the Guildable Manor of Southwark.
James again on the Guildable Manor of Southwark.
Yes, so this had come about following a request from a member of the Court of Aldermen about to clarify the relationship between the Court of Aldermen and the City Corporation with the Guildable Manor of Southwark. The paper sets out the right of the City of London Corporation to hold a court leet in Southwark, which is a sort of preserved court under a 1970s Act. Nowadays, the only sort of role of the court leet is to empanel the jurors who hear an address from the recorder as High Steward of Southwark, which is an ex officio role, and there's the appointment of traditional officers. The Guildable Manor of Southwark is the organisation which is the association of the jurors who are called to attend the court leet of Southwark. So they're two separate bodies. The corporation has no formal role with the Guildable Manor of Southwark, although back in the 2000s, the Guildable Manor had asked the Court of Aldermen to adopt oversight of their governance arrangements, although as far as I can see from the records, this was never formally done. So the relationship with the Guildable Manor is loose, but the right of the corporation is to hold the courts leet, and the Guildable Manor are involved with that courts leet, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much, James. So I will just, I know anyone wants to speak, but just to say, no, we have no formal role with them, and the oversight over them has never formally been used. And as James said, it's a loose relationship. So my view, depending on what everyone goes, is that we should just leave it as it is. And there's not much to do here. And if there are certain things we can probably discuss offline. But Tim and then Martha.
So just very quickly, thank you. Great paper. It's good that this has been very clearly set out. I think to the extent that there's material out there in the public domain that suggests that we have some kind of oversight that needs to be rectified. I'm specifically thinking about websites which claim that to be the case. And perhaps we take it offline. I'll have a conversation with James, which is the mechanisms for who gets summoned to the court leet. I think the register is maintained at the Bailey by us, but but I agree with you. These are distinct and separate issues. I think the constitutional piece around the court leet is ours, but the association is nothing to do with us.
Thank you, Tim. Martha.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see the Lady Mayor's here today, so thank you. As we all know, one of her slogans for this year is unsquaring the square mile. So I feel that reading this paper, there is really nothing squarer than the Southwark Court Leet in the Guildable Manor of Southwark. So although they claim history as the reason for their existence, and the present leet dates only from 1953, and we can see actually the Guildable Manor also is from the early 1990s, their activities essentially consist of a lot of ceremonial around an extinct legal jurisdiction. This distinguishes them from livery companies, which do a lot more than just celebrate history, of course, and many of which are genuinely quite old. So my view here is I think that the corporation should make it clear that it does not supervise or support the Guildable Manor, which according to paragraph 20 of this report gives actually quite a misleading impression of coming under the corporation's supervision. I also think the corporation should take the steps to abolish the court slate, which serves no useful purpose whatsoever. And as such, I believe kind of sends out precisely the wrong signal of what the modern corporation is all about. And surely the Lady Mayor would agree this is a good example of how we can unsquare the square mile. Some ceremonial, as you probably know and probably appreciate, around the sort of corporation's keys, offices and functions is acceptable to most people. Although you probably know my views, I do not think we tend to go a little bit too far in that respect. But ceremonial for its own sake, as in the case here in this paper of the court's fleets and the Guildhall Manor, is not consistent with a corporation that should actually be looking forward rather than backwards.
Greg.
I think we should just reflect. Just unless I've missed paragraph 17 and 18, and I'm not saying we shouldn't take steps to whichever way to disassociate ourselves. But before, I think leaping in, I see at paragraph 18 on the, it may not be a requirement, but at the court leet, there has been for the last 15 years a series of legal lectures by including Dame Victoria Sharp and Baroness Hale, actually showcasing a number of our leading female lawyers. And I just think we should just reflect before and not jump. And so I would suggest that we just look a little bit at the Court of Aldermen before we jump either way saying anything.
Just going to bring, before anyone else, I'm just going to bring Katie into, sorry, Katie.
Good morning. I'm here for Paul Wright today, and just looking at paragraphs 17 and 18 and just listening to what's been said, I think it would be right to reflect a little on those associations before leaping. And I say that because there is a substantial overlap between as someone who has attended some of their events, between members of the liveries and the Guildhall Manor, in terms of thinking about what those associations might be going forward. I think it probably is worth taking a bit more time to reflect before coming to a decision. I'm happy to come back with further information that would be helpful as regards that, or maybe it can form part of the conversations that might take place outside of this meeting. But I just flag that there may be some views that you would like to take before we reach.
Thank you for that. I've got lots of people who would like to speak. Robert Howard, Vincent, and then Alison.
Thank you. I think this is an interesting one to try and get one's head around. I'm not sure I've read about this before, so it's very news to me. But looking at paragraph 20, it seems that corporation is not in a position to abolish the Guildhall Manor. It's freestanding, but we do exercise a right on the court leet, so we do have some discretion as to what we do there. In terms of the Guildhall Manor itself, I'm wondering if anybody has asked their opinion on what they ought to be doing, rather than us just top down imposing what we think we ought to be doing when probably most of us have never attended any of their events. Seems a bit unfair.
Absolutely, and that actually they do. I remember as sheriff and others sheriffs here, there was a dinner held at the Old Bailey, which they had an annual dinner there. Vincent, and then Alison.
Thank you, Chair. My inclination on this is to say that we should not be exercising as a right of an element of supervision over the Guildhall Manor itself. For a number of reasons, but I'm happy with the current position, which is that we effectively disclaim authority over oversight. But perhaps it's something we could maybe have a look at in the Magistracy and Livery Subcommittee, have a discussion about it. We can and indeed the relationship with the court sleet. I think that the point, there is a wider point about ceremonial, and the court sleet is an interesting example of this. I used to talk when people talk about the mayoralty and the ceremonial aspects of the mayoralty. I used to talk about it as a platform, and the important thing is, and it is an incredible platform. It gives us a visibility, and that offers a visibility that it wouldn't otherwise have, and the very similar considerations apply in the case of the sheriffs as well. But it's what you use that platform for, and the platform is, I always said, is to look forward and to engage with the issues of tomorrow, today, and tomorrow in the future, rather than actually looking backwards, however attractive that might be from time to time. And I think the Court's Leet, as it's evolved and as it's being used at the moment, and the reference Greg has made to the annual legal lectures, which have attracted some of the most senior judiciary in the country, I think is a very good example of using a platform to engage with issues of today and tomorrow. And I think we need to, as with all of these ceremonial elements to the roles that we hold, we need to think very carefully about the unintended consequences of dismissing them too readily. So I think there is something to be said for retaining the Court's Leet, perhaps looking at the way it's used, but let's have a closer look at the relationship with the Guildhall Manor.
Thank you, Vincent. Alison, and then Lady Mayor.
Yeah, just to perhaps confuse things further, I believe there are 2 other Guildhall manors of some kind in Southwark, and I think the other 2 at one stage certainly did not admit women. I think this one that we're talking about does allow equal access, but I think it's all a part. It's all, I totally agree that we should actually, in a sense, make it very clear where the line is between what we do, whether we're endorsing it, and what our role is, i.e. no role, etc. Thank you.
Lady Mayor.
I had no idea there were 3 of them in Southwark or what they all do. Look, can I just concur really? I completely agree we should make it clear that there is no formal link, and to Tim's point, if it's indicated on website, otherwise we need to make sure it's absolutely clear we're not. I don't understand the landscape fully enough to understand what we can and cannot do with the Guildhall Manor, so I'd really support some more information coming back via the committee. It would be great.
Chair, could I suggest that as I think you mentioned, or Vincent mentioned, that our committee takes it back, because we never looked at it. I'm not criticising because it's not under our jurisdiction, as it points out.
But I think Vincent's idea is absolutely. So you've got a meeting in March, if I remember rightly. So why don't you take this in March and then report back and then we can come to a decision or conclusion of our relationship with them. Everyone comfortable with that? Martha and then Jeanette.
Just to clarify, why was it brought here in the first place then? And it kind of follows from a couple of things then. Why wasn't this paper fully beefed out? Given this focuses on paragraph 17, 18 and paragraph 20, everyone's saying we've got no jurisdiction. So why are we discussing it? Why is it here? And then, if it's just about lectures, I guess I'm thinking, well, we can just provide those anyhow. I guess, I can't see the logic at the moment and why it's here. And it hasn't been fully
as Robert Howard said, whether we have jurisdiction, it's actually to go over the conversation of what we do have with them. And Robert had never heard of it. Many people haven't heard of it. In their website, they do mention that the Court of Aldermen's involved. So it was here for discussion, which I think has been a very good discussion. And now we're going to go to the magistrate and we'll bring it back and have another discussion where we can then come to a conclusion of what you're asking for. So that's why it was brought here in the first place. And as we know, there are quite a number of things sometimes that we discover that the Court of Aldermen's involved in, and this was one of them. I don't know whether that answers your question, Jeanette, as well.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same. It seems like it's sort of, I thought maybe I'd missed something at the last meeting, some random agenda item, which no one seems to know very much about. Just seems to me that isn't the sort of thing we should have a bit more meat on the bones before we spend.
Well, I think there'll be more meat on the bones for the next time, but I think we had to the initial discussion. But the remembrancer will say something.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I mean, absolutely that. It was questions that had just been asked really about the relationship of the court with the Guildhall Manor, and this is really the start of a conversation, but we wanted to sort of raise the the matter before you, so that you're appraised of this of the sort of existence. For some people might not be aware of it, that it does exist, but there clearly needs to be a further conversation. And so this is, if you like, is the starting point for that conversation, and that's why it's here before the court today. Thank you.
Thank you, Remember, sir. Right, everyone comfortable with that? Thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. On then to item 7, which is the standard quarterly report of the Executive Director for Innovation and Growth for information.
Thank you, Daniel. Where are you? There you are, down there. Welcome. This was something which we agreed as a court to have a quarterly report, and Daniel is going to give that, and then we can have obviously Q&A afterwards. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully this is now a very recognisable format for members of the court. I will just go through a couple of the key areas to highlight, and I'm very happy to take, of course, any questions that you have. The first thing to point out, of course, is in October we launched the Office for Investment Financial Services and also the Sterling 20 Group to drive investment into regional infrastructure and growth sectors, with both strong leadership from our previous Lord Mayor and now taken on by the Lady Mayor and Policy Chairman. On the OFI Financial Services, there is an agenda item in the non-public session, so we will come on to that a little bit later. In terms of sustainable finance, the Transition Finance Council launched a global consultation on the draft financial guidelines at COP30, aiming to scale transition finance internationally with support from the UK government departments to promote that collaboration and positioning the corporation in a leadership role. On innovation and technology, the Lord Mayor's Quantum Hackathon showed real progress in quantum-enabled financial services, and the Women in Pivoting to Digital Task Force launched a webinar series promoting skills-based hiring and inclusive digital workplaces. One other key element to advise you on, and I'm sure you are all very aware of, that in this period of time we have also made our appointment of our US Managing Director, David Vanderveer, who I'm delighted to say has started this month, but the recruitment process concluded during the progress of this report. Happy to take further questions on that too, of course. Looking ahead, there are further international visits. The annual Brussels reception mentioned in the report has already taken place, as has the delegation to Davos, both of which were a success. We have also, since writing the report, launched the annual benchmarking report, which is the 6th edition, 102 metrics comparing the UK's as a global financial centre against our peers. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Questions for Daniel? Tim.
Thank you, Daniel, for the report. One theme which I don't think we are focusing anywhere near enough time and focus on is AI. I think, one of your key areas is innovation and technology. I personally believe it's the biggest single issue that we are going to face, both within the corporation and the City of London over the next 3 to 4 years. And I think focus should run through every aspect of the corporation, every committee. And I think it's the natural home for me is in IG. I know we've got a variety of initiatives, but fundamentally at the pace of change that we're seeing, it's certainly something where I feel it needs a real shift in focus. I've spoken to the chair of policy. I've had a passing conversation with the town clerk in the past about the corporation having a chief AI officer. I think we should have a task force as well. But for me, there is nowhere near enough conversation and engagement on this issue across the whole corporation. So it's not kind of a criticism, but it's just something that is really concerning me, and I think it's something that we need to engage in a material way and kind of have a real shift in our approach.
You'd like to reply?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thanks for the comments. Alderman, I'm a proponent of this agenda. There will be a corporate acceleration with regards to our response to AI and to the adoption. We want to be leading on AI adoption across all of our activities, but also leading as a systems leader across the square mile as well. These conversations are live with the CPR and Deputy CPR. He's very much interested, and there'll be a policy paper in the summer coming forward to kind of set that training motion. What you ask for with regards to a corporate urgency around it, you'll see come forth in the policy papers in the summer.
I mean, I think the challenge we have, Town Clerk, is the pace. And so I think what we really need to recognise is how quickly things are moving. So
Chairman,
I think if we can kind of.
Chairman, absolutely on that. We'll be onboarding a transformation partner as well to help expedite that. So where we don't have the capacity as well as capability, we'll be onboarding people with expertise to help us with that. We're also cognizant of the fear around AI as well, the ethics around it. So we'll be building that in there. So we'll be quite cautious with regards to ethics and the fact that AI likes to hallucinate at times. So training and development will be key to how we optimize our adoption and use it in the most purposeful way. It can't come without training and ensuring that we upskill the workforce as we go. So the urgency and the pace that you ask for, it will be central to what we do moving forward. With regards to a chief AI officer, I did respond to you with regards to the many, the very extensive executive leadership board that I have, and given where we are with funding, I think that might be a challenge too.
I've got lots of people. I'm going to bring the Chamberlain in on this as well, because it is under you, I think. Then I'm going to go to Daniel. I've got Michael, Martha, and then Alex, and then Robert.
Thank you, Chairman. So absolutely hearing the point on pace, and I think the two aspects of it. One is what's happening out there, particularly within the financial professional services, and how we learn from what is being done there and how it's been adopted, but then also internally. And the point about readiness for us to adopt rapidly as well internally is dependent on a lot of the enabling work that is now in train and being done. So absolutely hear the point on pace. We need to have the vision quickly. We need to understand what that means, both externally and internally. But just to also say there is a trajectory internally, which means there's a lot of things we need to do around our data integrity, our systems, our processes, and our governances, so that we can leverage it to best effect. Thank you.
Daniel, in fact, I'm going to put you on hold because you can listen to what everyone says, take notes, and come back at the end if that's all right. Michael, and then Martha.
Thank you, Chairman. The point I'd like to make is, whilst agreeing with everything here, I believe that we do need to pursue two different tracks, and not to confuse the internal AI of the corporation and its adoption with the policy. This paper is here about supporting professional and financial services across the city. Both need to be done, but I believe they need to be done separately. However, I do believe there's a need for significant thinking in this area. You may recall, in fact, Ian, that we had a session in October 2023 where ING deliberately went off in a different direction, put substantial money behind the progress at Bletchley Park. And that may have been interesting, but the program that we pursued, the 695th Ethical AI Initiative, was supporting, in fact, the use of ISO 42001, a course, and in fact was pursuing with $33 trillion of the industry a completely different direction. Ultimately, on the 3rd of September last year, the government in its UK AI Trust Assurance Framework specifically said that ISO 42001 is the path that it is taking, and specifically said that it wished to work with AI quality infrastructure, which was in fact founded at Mansion House as part of the Walbrook Accord. So I would pursue it in two different ways, but I must say I do worry about ING's ability to think clearly in this sector over the long term for the sake of the industry.
Martha.
So a lot of people in this room seem to be quite supportive of AI, but I have some concerns, and I wanted to just raise this to make sure we're thinking about this, because picking up on the point just made, not just about the internal, but also about the industry, I've got a concern about the jobs it's going to actually lose. We had the Mayor of London here for the local government dinner only a few days ago, making quite a really good speech, actually. I applauded that he got up to say this, and he's creating a task force to look at actually the job losses through AI and trying to protect those. And I think we need to think about that internally. There will be job cuts if, with AI coming forward in the corporation, but equally the industry, that, if we're meant to be supporting and be ambassadors for the profession of financial services out there, there's going to be quite a few cuts. So I don't know what we need to do on that, but it's something we really need to think and consider and take forward.
Thank you, Martha. Alex.
Listen to all of this. I just want to revisit a couple of core points that Tim has made and Michael has made. This is as much about capacity and capability of the corporation versus our voice and our bite that we've had SpaceX and XAI merge this morning. This is on the agenda whether we like it or not. We're all aware of the ethics and the job loss issues, but we've got to have voice and bite on this and speak with an authoritative tongue. And we need to move at pace on that. And frankly, we're not doing that at the moment.
Thank you, Alex. Robert. Well, any more on this AI issue? Greg.
Very quickly, just to reinforce what's said and the speed. I just circulated, just from the legal side, the head of the Supreme Court yesterday made a speech about the impact of AI, public confidence in the law, and also he regards it as a bigger issue as the rise of populism, and that's coming out from Lord Reed. So he's not known as a sort of rabble rouser. So it's just to reinforce everything that Tim led off with. We need to be responding. I take Martha's points on the jobs, but as Alex says, we can't put it back in the box. My brother-in-law, CTO of WPP, they're advertising people, they're getting big in AI. They know it's going to have an impact, but they want to be in the front, and that's where we've got to be.
Thank you, Greg. On the screen, Nick Lyons and then Emma. Nick, you were waving your hand, or weren't you? No, you weren't. Okay, Emma.
Thank you. Martha, can I just pick up on your point on job cuts? And I know that it's disruptive technologies have a way of causing fear up and down, not just this country, but everywhere, in fact. But instead of looking at it as job cuts, we need to start looking at it as job redirections, because as Alex has said, what we can't do is stop progression, because if we do, the rest of the world is going to move on. So can I just encourage everybody here to keep on thinking of it as job redirections?
Thank you, Emma. Good point. Anyone? Robert.
Just on that, and I couldn't see it in the report, but the Financial Services Skills Commission is doing a piece of work on the impact of AI on financial services and what firms and what the industry needs to do to make sure we have the right skills. So that is an area where we are involved through the commission. Thank you.
Nick.
In terms of, I just want to pick up and emphasize what Robert just said. If you go back 30 years or 40 years ago, in accounting firms, they used to have reams of people who used to tabulate numbers vertically and horizontally. Then this thing called the spreadsheet got invented. Some of us might remember something called VisiCalc, which was the first available spreadsheet. The expectation then was that the number of people employed in the accounting profession would be decimated. What would we do with all that skill set? What actually happened was exactly the redirection, what Emma said and what Robert said, of skills and capabilities. So I think we should look at this not from a position of fear and the job losses, but more about what skill sets do people need to create to be able to use this new tool in the new way of doing it. Because at a very simple practical level, I'm involved in a business in Australia which has used AI to do some of its claims handling process. And chatting to the CEO, and they're big and they have 3 million customers, so they're using it at scale. He said, yeah, we haven't lost a job yet. Actually, my headcount is going up because I'm employing people to oversee the AI, which is doing the grunt work that people used to do. And we're now retraining our people to be able to do it. So the reskilling is way more important. And I think it's very important that we do not get into the, oh gosh, it's going to be awful. It's got to be, no, how do we reskill our workforce? How do we make sure this works effectively? And actually, the spreadsheet example is the simplest one that we've all lived through. And PwC doesn't appear to be getting any smaller to me every time I look at their workforce or the profit per partner.
Thank you for that, Bronnie. So 2 more comments. Yeah, Martha and then Jeanette.
I just wanted to clarify, I wasn't saying it was awful. I'm just saying there's 2 sides of the coin and we need to balance that and actually make sure that for our city, our constituents, we hear all views. For me, you know, I was reading The Lawyer recently and it was saying, for example, 75% of junior lawyers have lost their deep thinking and critical analysis because they are using AI. So I guess the next questions I have is like, what do we do with those junior lawyers? You know, if it's not about training them to use AI, it's actually something else beyond that and not losing the skills that they have. So I'm not asking for answers today. So all I'm saying is I think we need to think about everything. It's not a simple concept, as Michael had said earlier.
Okay, thank you for your view. Jeanette.
I was just going to agree with what Bronix just said. And I think, and what Tim said, we do need a strong voice in this area as the city to look like we know what we're talking about and actually have a view and be able to lobby our government on what they really should be doing. We do need to understand the ethics of AI. Well, quite a big piece of this is in the business that I'm currently working with in the law firm. We're not at all worried about AI. In fact, it's a huge opportunity. And I'd just like to also put on the table that when you talk to young people in their 20s and early 30s, this is not a concern for them. They are not that worried about their jobs. It might be if they come from vulnerable backgrounds and they don't have the right access to what they need. But most of them are already thinking in this way. So all the innovations and all the new businesses will have this in their remit and have it within their products anyway. And we need to avoid looking like we're a bit out of touch, actually, when, you know, and it might be something that we need to have a bit more of the younger generation coming in to be involved in some of this with it.
True, and all those younger generation founding AI startups, age 23 and 24. Tim, and then I'm coming back to you, Emma, and then I'm going to go to Daniel on his comments on AI.
So Daniel, just finally, we've put the IG team in touch with an initiative that we've created with our portfolio company called Jobs2030.ai, which is about upskilling and reskilling 100,000 banking and financial services workers by 2030, which actually I think is too long, but ultimately we've got to start somewhere. I really think something like that is where we need to focus, and be great to have IG's involvement in that. And, you know, as Alex says, we need to speak with a single voice, but it is about upskilling and reskilling.
Emma, and then Vincent.
Thank you. Can I echo Jeanette's voice as well on this, but also expand and there's 2 matters that have risen. One of those is that the House of Lords are creating, if not they've already created, a select committee on resilience, and this is going to be, would be and should be part and parcel, AI should be part and parcel of UK resilience. So even though we're looking at this from a city perspective, indeed, if we do not catch up with the rest of the country, we are going to be left behind. Now I'm going to expand that out into the globe. I've already been invited by the US to come and deliver a speech on precisely this. And I've also been invited by Australia to do the same. We've got Australia and the US who are moving very fast in these spheres. So just a little word of warning, the globe is actually looking. I've already delivered a speech in another country as well. So the globe is moving full steam ahead on AI. So I would really wholeheartedly encourage that we do move very fast on this.
Thank you, Emma. Vincent, and then back to Daniel.
Thank you. I have to say it's a very good discussion. It just reflecting on one thing, which is that this paper, of course, came to Policy and Resources last week for information, and is just passed over. And in fact, I think which doesn't do it justice, Daniel, just to the ING team. I think you can see the benefit of having a proper discussion of the issues and the thinking that it then generates. So perhaps we might look at that in P&R and how best to platform these papers in future. But here on AI, I think a very good point has been made, which is around the socioeconomic impacts of AI. I think this is a significant piece that hasn't really been picked up yet. We are talking very much about the jobs at a macro level and the impact on industries, but there are some very significant socioeconomic effects that AI is driving. Progress Together, the organisation which I chair, we launched a report last year, which last September, October, which Accenture worked on with us, demonstrating just how negative some of these impacts are currently and could potentially develop into. So I think there is in that skills piece, we can't ignore the socioeconomic dimensions to it as well. But as I'm pleased to say that an organisation such as Progress Together, which is supported by the City of London, is already focused on that.
Thank you, Vincent. Daniel.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all members for a really useful discussion and plenty to take away. If I may, I bucketed up a number of the comments, and I'll come to them in different parts. But to my mind, I've sort of the pace and the intrinsic nature, the focus of where the corporation's focus should be, jobs, the legal underpinning, and partners. So I'll just come to each of those, if I may, and apologies. I hope I've not missed anything out in those. I completely agree. The pace is just phenomenal. We've seen that ramp up. We knew this 2 years ago, but it's now exponential. It's also intrinsic. And so I think one of the conversations that we need to have is whether we treat AI as a vertical or whether we treat it as a horizontal, or perhaps more likely as a hybrid. My reason for talking in that vein is that there are a number of different areas of focus that we could look at, and the investment piece is obviously critical to that. We think about the innovative companies that we need to drive in terms of the innovation. We think about the infrastructure that's needed and the investment in talent. But even in the infrastructure, that brings you into things like energy policy. It brings you into the deployment of institutional investment into data centers, for example. It moves you into a sustainable finance place if we are looking at the energy side of things. So there is a number of things to unpick because it has become so intrinsic. That said, I also think there are the elements of the vertical that we need to think about. There is the skills piece, hugely important, both the pipeline of graduates and people leaving school and tertiary education, but also the reskilling of the existing workforce. I think there is domestic adoption, and there are some cultural barriers that we are aware of within a number of businesses, and others that will be an important thing to address. And equally then there is the global leadership and standards point, not just from the UK, but where the corporation positions itself as a value add in a policy environment that is being driven at pace. So in terms of our focus and what we're working on at the moment in terms of our business planning is how we actually maximize the ROI for the corporation in this space. There's clearly a big thing to do around skills. There's clearly a big thing to do around investment. And there's clearly a big thing for us to consider about how we help the building blocks to the infrastructural piece, because frankly, there is no pace and growth of the economy without the infrastructure to support it. I completely understand that there are differing views on where that focus should be and the capabilities of one department to deliver that. But we will be coming back to both this committee and indeed to P&R with our business plan, with a lot of this fleshed out a little bit more. More briefly on the other buckets, if I may, in terms of the job side of things, there was a very senior CEO who put it, I think, rather well to us when we were in Davos, that it's really the focus needs to be around the enablement of augmentation rather than displacement. It was a phrase that struck. I do think the legal underpinning is a critical part, also as something that cuts across a number of the areas that we do. But trust is such a big building block to the success of our financial and professional services and the ability to do business in the UK that we shouldn't lose sight of that either. And on our partners, thank you for flagging those. We're absolutely plugged into the Financial Services Skills Commission. Obviously, the Chancellor announced the Skills Compact at the Mansion House dinner last year. We will be involved in that. Jobs2030.ai, absolutely. I think that is absolutely something on the reskilling point that we need to be very much involved in, as well as progress together from the socio-economic side of things. These are all things that I will take back to the team, but to reassure members, these are all very much on their radar at the moment. Chair.
Daniel, thank you very much. Very comprehensive. Anyone else on this, on Daniel's piece, IG's piece? Thank you. Town Clerk. Yes.
I said I'd like to.
Yeah, you did. Apologies, Robert. Forgot.
Thank you, Chair. So a couple of other questions, one on the paper and one that's not on the paper, but I think we should consider. Paragraph 19 refers to COP30 and Belém, and could I just ask for an update on if any actions have been taken within the corporation following COP30 and our engagement with that? I'm mindful that there are two delegations of Brazilian ambassadors in town this week. One on Friday, and who are visiting the Old Bailey. There's another delegation who are wanting to meet with the Lady Mayor earlier in the week on finance and investment. And are you aware of that, and are you a briefing for those visits? Thank you.
Daniel.
Thank you for that. Yes, aware, but if I may, I will come back to you after this meeting. I'll check in with the team to look at the progress on that, and I will also ask them for an update on the actions from COP. I don't have those in front of me, but I can write.
Thank you. The second question, which isn't on here, which is something that we asked Damien about when he last attended this, was the IG's work in regard to defence, security, and resilience, and the city's position and movements in that. It'd be good to have an update on thinking there. And I'm aware that whilst the government had previously in the autumn chosen not to engage with the supranationals or nascent supranational banks, that position has now changed as of this week. And what are we doing to step into that space and offer the city's financial professional services to resource and enable those banks to develop? And in the same vein, with the defence investment plan imminent, what are we doing in terms of engaging with the defence investment plan and offering the city's services to bring that to life? Thank you.
Daniel.
Again, thank you very much for that. I'll write again with a fuller response. Obviously aware of the question that came up at COCO recently, which the team fed into. We are in conversation directly with the Treasury, particularly to that point around the government's direction of travel. It's an area that we continue to monitor. Our stakeholder engagement has focused on that in recent months, particularly looking at the investment into the defence supply chain is something that has been brought up previously. Let me write in full, and I will come back to you.
Thank you, Daniel. And of course, talking about Brazil, I'm sure everyone's read the article, if you haven't, on Nubank, which has a higher valuation than Revolut. And we mustn't forget that is quite intriguing. And they're also looking to move into the US. Daniel, thank you for your time. And you'll respond to those questions which you weren't able to respond to straight away. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not aware in advance of any questions in the public session at item 8.
Sorry.
I did have 3 questions.
I'm so sorry, Alison.
I don't know whether you want to take them.
Go for it. No, that's fine.
Well,
apologies.
in reverse order, possibly. It was suggested that maybe that we should, as a committee, have an update on the magistracy, which I'm not proposing to give now. But if we did want to, maybe we could invite somebody such as Alexia Featherstone-Hoare, who is the magistracy lead person, not the chair of the bench, just to understand our engagement.
So that is on for future meeting. Yeah, so that's being addressed.
I think Andrew Palmer is going to talk about.
Yeah, that's going to come later.
And the other one was about the city and guilds, and I don't know whether there's any need to talk about that. I think again it's an associated organisation which could have reputation issues.
I think we'll address that later as well.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Can I follow something up on Alison has just mentioned? Because I think it's quite public. I don't think we should need to push it for later. So the point is on point 2. So there's been quite a lot of shocking WhatsApp messages from exchanges among senior officers of the Guild of Young Freemen, I believe they're called. And they're all in the public domain now. I think a lot of us have received copies, reclaim of published stuff. I think some other people have picked this up. The whole livery is talking about it. And I know they're still members of the Guild, although no longer their officers. So what I want to ask is, what is our position, the corporation's position here? Does it continue to support them? And the reason I mention this, I know I raised it last time, what is our jurisdiction, is we can't just dismiss this because the Guild actually, I think it was founded in 1976, but it has close links with the corporation. If you look on its website, the immediate past Lord Mayor is still the Guild's honorary president. So I go back to my original question, what is our position? Do we continue to support them?
So Andrew Palmer will address this.
Thank you very much. You may be interested to learn that the late Lord Mayor has offered to resign, and I've invited him not to do so until things become clearer. Chairman, I can speak to this now or in private.
So private? No.
Quite private, because this is all in the public domain. I think everybody needs to know. It's nothing.
I believe the deliberation.
There's still a deliberation going on.
About what?
It's the business.
Well, this is where we'll discuss that in private.
So essentially, non-public session.
Yeah, we'll come back to it in non-public. Okay. Anything else? Town clerk?
Not that I'm aware of, Chair, and neither am I aware of any other business.
Thank you, all those who members of the public who are watching, and we'll now move into non-public.